Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. I thought today we would have a look at some of the changelogs that have been happening in Enlisted recently. The reason is because they keep doing some small minor changes over every day, meaning that there is changes to the game pretty much every day, and this is good. It shows that the game is constantly evolving. It means that they're working on bug fixes. It means they're changing metas, especially for specific units. Now, one of the things I didn't cover on the channel was actually an update at the Reichstag walls. This actually was a big Berlin update and also a massive update for stuff such as, how units work and also some of the UI elements. A lot of them are positive. I would actually say the majority of them are positive, which is very good. And in this video, we're going to be covering the updates from the last week. So make sure to check out at the Reichstag walls. It was a pretty game-changing update on how everything works, and also I've been playing the Battle of Berlin and giving it a go. I would say it's pretty fun. It's nice to have a ton of pretty decent weapons. I would say there is a little bit of imbalance right now between the USSR and the Germans. I think the USSR are way stronger, at least in the early levels, but we'll have to see if that continues going forward, especially when people start unlocking those later level things. One of the issues is the tanks. The starter tanks are pretty imbalanced, and also the planes are a bit rough, and the starter guns, the German starter gun is, well, the bolt action is just not fun at all. Anyway, let's get into the updates from the last week. The first update is 0.1.22.23, and they did some interesting things in this one. So these were mainly based off the last update, which was added to the game or in the game, which was 0.1.22.16, which was another massive addition to the game with a lot of changes. What they did in 0.23 though was they fixed the ability to resupply mortar ammo from crates. Now this one is an interesting one, because basically what they made it was that mortars couldn't resupply, ammo, and then they changed that, or they reverted that, but now mortars are limited with the amount of resupplies they can take from crates. Individuals I saw were saying they can only take one of the resupplies, and that's it from each crate, but the thing is I haven't checked this, so I don't know if that is the case. If that is the case, that is very positive. I've made two videos now, basically just showing you the issues that mortars have, the fact that they are very simple and easy to use, especially on invasion maps, not so much on conquest maps because teams are a little bit more spread out, but on invasion maps, if you had the full resupply constantly, it was really easy just to annihilate teams over and over again and pretty much just get first place. The major issue with the mortars is what you can do is you can just keep firing them and you can have absolutely no way of being harmed because you are sat behind your team, normally 100 to 150 to 200 meters behind your team, and therefore there is no consequence to stop doing what you're doing, especially when you understand where the lines are, where people go, and you could just keep killing people over and over and over again. And it's not just the fact that it was really easy to do and also very safe to do, it's also incredibly boring to do. And this is important. You don't want one of the best ways to get kills on certain maps to also be the most boring, the least interactive way of doing things, because it means that the people who want to do the meta stuff are going to get bored very, very quickly, and also it's going to be very boring facing it because you're just under a constant barrage of mortar shells, which aren't just loud but also kill your guys very, very easily. So the change here, where they made it so you are limited on supplies, is very much a positive one. I don't know how much this will affect the mortar squads. It will probably make them a lot less useful because they were pretty insane before, but as long as they can work out how many reloads that they can get, which would work for them, then I think this would be fine. They also fixed a bug that did not allow the use of 2 aircraft in the Invasion of Normandy campaign. I'm believe this is either one of two things. So if you expand the amount of squads you can take into a battle, you can actually bring along 3 different aircraft. So you can just cycle between them if you want to stay in the air the whole game. And this is something you can do on the American side. Not sure you can do on the German side because of the limits of aircraft, but you can at least get pretty close. And the fact is, I think this is quite boring, once again, gameplay, and also there is a fundamental issue with Enlisted, with the majority of people being infantry and having vehicles go around, which are either bombers or attackers or fighters. There isn't a big counter really to these things apart from other planes, and even other planes now, because they've increased the damage models so much. There was a problem with Enlisted where the planes would take a little bit of damage and then they would fall out of the air, and this was obviously a problem. But now what they've done in Enlisted is the opposite. Now planes are incredibly tanky. So let's say you want to play the fighter role, let's say you want to be able to get into the air and defend against it. Well, the first thing is they've made certain vehicles very tanky, so therefore taking them out is very hard to do. And then the second issue that you also run into is a lot of people suicide bomb or suicide rocket. So you are just there dancing around, watching the enemy team get their bombs off, get their rockets off, and then die ceremoniously afterwards while plunging into the ground. And it's kind of annoying, but we'll have to see if those are looked at in the future. Corrected camera position when selecting respawn points in some missions. It will make it easier when selecting mobile rally points at the edge of the map. So there you go. It will just be easier to be able to click on things to spawn where you want. I also really like the respawn change that they made for the rally points, where now you can put multiple near each other and then it just spawns you on one of them. That's a really good change. I'm glad that they did that. In update 0.1.22.35, they actually brought over the same changes from the last one, so they fixed the ability to resupply mortar ammo from crates and so on. But they did also bring along some new ones, so fixed a bug that prevented the Panzerfaust 60 ammo replenishment from the engineer's supply box. Now, the Panzerfaust is used in the Battle of Berlin, not just by one side, but by both sides. And you get a Panzerfaust on the German side, and then a captured Panzerfaust on the USSR side. And these things are extremely deadly to tanks, and they're going to have to be. With the tanks that they're looking to implement in the Battle of Berlin, you know, Panthers, maybe even King Tigers, maybe even IS-2s, it's going to be very hard to kill these things if you are an infantry member, which is why I'm worried about the balance between tanks and also infantry. There is already a huge issue with them, and it's just going to be harder and harder and harder to take out these guys without help of either planes or without help of other tanks. And the fact that you couldn't supply the Panzerfaust once you used it all, since you already get pretty limited ammunition from it, I'm glad that they decided to change it. I don't think the Panzerfaust is going to become a instrument that a lot of people use to spam out, you know, little kind of mortar rounds, because the warhead on the Panzerfaust is so small and not designed for anti-infantry. There's not a lot of explosion in it, much more about penetration. So it's not going to be used as a pseudo mortar to be able to take out troops as it's coming in. So I think it should be completely fine being resupplied. The amount of ammunition in the engineer's supply box now depends on its size, so mortars and rocket launchers can now be replenished fewer times than regular firearms. This is what I was talking about before. So with mortars, you only have a specific amount that you can resupply. This is to stop the unlimited mortar spam that you can get. The fact that they've looked at a lot of the what I would class as broken elements of Enlisted over the last month or two, and the fact that a lot of them they've addressed pretty well. So the first one was the aircraft one, adding the timer at the start of the map. That was really nice. This is another example of it, where they've changed the mortar stuff. They also changed how engineers interact when it comes to different things. They removed the MG nest from the original engineers. I think that was a powerful move. It shows that they are definitely listening to people's concerns and looking to ways around it to try and balance the game, which is really nice. They also fixed a bug that prevented purchase of a premium squad with a discount for gold. That is a very odd one. That is an incredibly odd bug, and obviously one that they would want to get fixed so people can purchase stuff for a discount. And also at the same time, it does mean that we can now have discounts in the future, such as on the D-Day event for Enlisted. They did 50% off the Invasion of Normandy machine gun bundle. Now it's only 15% off, so that offer is gone, but I'm sure in the future when they do more events like D-Day, it will get itself a discount. I would also like to comment on the D-Day event as well. I thought it was a very good event. It was a very positive event. I enjoyed it quite a lot. The only issue I really have with it was the pick of the flamethrower stuff. So you basically had 4 sets of things you had to do. You had to fight a battle, win 3 battles, and then you had to kill 100 enemies with machine guns, and then you had to kill 60 enemies with a flamethrower, and then get first place in 7 battles. So the machine guns was fine. The fight a battle and then win 3 battles is fine. One of the 2 issues, so the first one was the fact that you couldn't do all of the things at once. It was a linear progression, meaning that you had to complete the first one first and then the second one second. So you had to complete the fight 1 battle first, and then once you did that, that unlocked win 3 battles. So if you won that first battle, that didn't count for your second thing, and therefore the win 3 battles doesn't count for your machine guns kills. So it's kind of a rolling set of challenges. Now this is completely fine, but when you have an overarching challenge, which is get first place 7 times, I would prefer if this was an overarching one which was running with everything else, but even increased it to maybe 10 times, or made it like 1 to 2 or 1 to 3 or 1 to 5, and make it 20 times. I think that would have been a lot nicer to do, because by the time I got the 4th challenge done, which in my opinion was the hardest, the kill 60 enemies with a flamethrower, I was pretty much done with the challenge itself. Luckily, when it came to the first places, I was able to play 8 matches and get 7 first places, so that obviously helped quite a lot. But the kill 60 enemies with a flamethrower, basically in the Invasion of Normandy, in a normal flamethrower squad, you can get 2 flamethrower troops, right? And you can get 2 flamethrower squads, but one of them is level 27. So the vast majority of people do not have that squad. So you have 2 flamethrower troops out of the 30 to 20 that you are bringing that are actually useful to get the flamethrower kills, and you have to kill 60 people. It's not like the machine gun squads where you can just have a machine gun squad with 4 or 5 members in it, and also the premium squads as well that you can bring along to be able to get the kills. No, the flamethrower one is very much limited on what you can use, and then also at the same time, the flamethrowers are the worst unit in the game right now, even after all of the buffs that they've got, which obviously is trying to address their usefulness. And yeah, it's the problem with them is the time to kill on the flamethrowers is way too long, and anybody getting fired by one can just turn quickly, kill you before they even burn to death. And it's something I've done many times, and it's something that I've seen done a lot of times. But that was a really rough one. All the rest weren't too bad though, and I would just like to be able to grind. Either you get rid of challenges like the flamethrower one, or you introduce something which makes it a little bit easier, because I do like the idea of killing stuff with unique weapons. You either bring those in, or what you do is you bring in something which makes it so it makes it so you can do more of the challenges at the same time. So you have two sets of them. You have the ones which pertain to winning the battles and fighting the battles, which you do separately from the kills ones, and then you can do the kills ones alongside getting the battles done, and that would just make progression a little bit easier. So the last one is update 1.22.40, and what they changed in here is just some improvements and also fixes. So not everything is fixes, they're also trying to modify the game, which is really nice to see. The improvements we have turned the matchmaking system so that the same missions are less likely to appear in a row if a player has not quit the battle early. So pretty much there is a smaller time frame where certain missions are picked in the game, and therefore there will be more rolling different missions instead of having the same one over and over and over again, which can definitely happen with specific times. Getting on something like the D-Day mission, the Invasion of Normandy mission, 3 times in a row can be very wearing, so having this more map rotation is very positive. They've also changed what contributes to gaining experience for engineers, meaning we have also changed the relevant battle tasks. Now the following are counted. So usage of supply crates, respawning at rally points, kills or kill assists with built cannon, such as an AA gun or stationary machine gun, enemies being damaged from a built barbed wire, and usage of sandbags as strategic points. So they talked about they were going to do this before, meaning that engineers are much more useful to the battlefield, not just for your team but also for yourself, because now you'll be able to actually get experience for people using your stuff as an engineer. So you should be able to research them quicker, you should be able to go through them, and generally when it comes to engineers, they are the best unit in the game, and the reason for this is because of the rally points and because of all of the other things you can do, but mainly it's the rally points, especially on invasion missions, and now you can get more stuff from them, which incentivizes people to use them more, which is good. You should try and have at least one engineer in all of your squads, just because of the rally point feature. So if your team is struggling to get to a point or is struggling to move forward, it's much better just to put down a rally point somewhere. Even if it is only like 20 or 30 meters closer, that just means your guys can be 5 seconds or 10 seconds ahead of where they normally are. And now with the limitations removed from the rally points where you can actually place them, now is the time to really use your engineers to the fullest. There was also a bunch of fixes as well. So allied AI soldiers will no longer walk in the air, so they ain't feeling like Jesus no more. I didn't even know they were doing that, but they were floating around the place. Also, they fixed the armor penetration on the GRB-39 anti-tank rifle and added secondary splinters after penetration. Hopefully this means that it will be a bit more useful. The GRB anti-tank rifle was the one which is in the Bastard Moscow campaign. If you've actually used it compared to the PTRD or the PTRS that the USSR gets, it is absolutely woeful and has been for an incredibly long time. So hopefully now with this change it will actually be useful. Before, what would happen is you would penetrate vehicles, do absolutely no damage, have the long reload, and then try again, and then maybe you would knock out an engine with 3 shots, but it just ain't worth it. I used it as a sniper rifle because I got so sick of it not working as an anti-tank rifle. But now with this change, hopefully it's made it as good as the PTRD, which is a very good anti-tank rifle. The next one is fix the absence of player immunity when respawning at standard spawn points. So for me, I don't think this should be done. Now, I am fine with the ability to not have immunity when spawning at rally points, because it's a risk-reward strategy, means that you risk getting mowed down within a second if somebody is looking at that rally point, but the reward is if you don't, you get closer to the battlefield and get into the action quicker. With the the immune taken off of the standard spawn points, what you're going to see is people developing strategies like they did at the end of the CBT, where they will just set up machine guns once they have those late tier engineer squads, which look over the standard spawns, and they're just going to mow people down as they spawn in, and they're not going to be able to respond. And the only way to get rid of these machine guns will either be through use of tanks or use of planes, which is definitely not a reliable source to be able to deal with these things, especially since the top tier engineers also have some pretty gnarly AT uses. So for me, what I would do personally is I would keep the immunity for the standard spawns, just because of that fact, because standard spawns, you always know where people are spawning, so the strategies at setting up things to be able to take out people in those spawns will develop a lot faster than they will against stuff like meta rally points, because meta rally points can change whereas standard spawns can't, and it's just going to be horrific for the teams who have to deal with that. It's not going to be too fun. But anyway, those are the changes for the week from Enlisted. I'm sure there will be much more coming in. And also at the same time, Mike and Oxy on the last Enlisted stream said to look for something interesting happening on the 13th. So we'll have to see what that is as well. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time. I'd like to thank BRFC, Swollen Ostrich, Teddy, John Ryman, Universe A, Conte Baraka, Eugens Terry, Ambrosius McClellan, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, B. Young, Lafouche, Barine, and Samuel Schlick for supporting the channel.